AndrewHogue.com allows you to get your fix 24/7 via our free iPhone and Android apps. Simply download from the respective stores and rock out. Andrew Hogue here for AndrewHogue.com, Australia's only 24/7 rock metal radio station. I'm now graced with the presence of a very good friend of mine, a inspiring person, an amazing guitar player. He's coming to Australia again. He's his second home virtually for some guitar clinics throughout the country, which you don't want to miss. And we're talking about Mr. Devin Townsend. Welcome back to AndrewHogue.com, Mr. Townsend.
How's it going there, Andrew Hogue?
It's fantastic. Everything is...
Congratulations on the station, man. It seems like you're rocking it out, which is something I heard you talking about 3 years ago, and it's actually going, man. Way to go.
If you dream it, it's a dream. You schedule it, it's real. Tony Robbins.
I love it.
Absolutely, yeah, no, things are great. So, again, like I said, it's always great to have you back in Australia. You've been here, I've lost count the amount of times you've been here, and you probably have as well. But let's talk a bit about the sort of music element before we sort of delve into the guitar clinics. Obviously, Casualties of Cool was released, and you've just done a bunch of shows in the UK to support that release. And again, the ever-flowing stream of music from Mr. Townsend just is in a constant flood. We know that there is Ziltoid 2 coming out shortly, as well as Sky Blue under the Devin Townsend project as well. I can't keep up. How the hell do you keep up? Tell us a bit about how it's all going and what we can expect to hear in the coming months of more music from Mr. Devin Townsend.
Well, I don't keep up either. I honestly don't keep up, and I think that it's folly for anybody to try. And I think that my tendency to oversaturate my audience with so much music is less about a compulsion and more about me feeling that this particular period of my life had a massive amount of information that I needed to purge. And I think that the Z2 project, which is not only a double record, but also comics and multimedia things and the Royal Albert Hall show and the puppet shows and the Universal choirs and orchestras, all this stuff. Yeah, it has been an immense amount of output from me. And I think that what is interesting is that because this project has been concluded and concluded in the way that I was hoping it would be, now's the time for me to maybe focus a bit more on producing it live or looking for further inspiration, and maybe there's going to be a possibility of not seeing so much material from me over the next couple of years. Yeah, there's a lot out there, man, and I think that these guitar clinics give me an opportunity to not only discuss this stuff with people, but perhaps provide some insight for other musicians as well as to, a bunch of the failings that I've made too, and say, hey, don't do that, or please feel free to do this because that part did work.
Well, when you mention about sort of easing off on the sort of musical projects once these new releases are finally out, I mean, is that possible? Because considering the amount of music that you've released over the years, is it possible that Devin Townsend can turn it off?
Yeah, it's possible to not put it out. I mean, I think that by nature I just write constantly, but the actualization of it, I think a lot of what it comes down to is me just learning how to say no, not only to external forces, but also to myself. It's one thing to have a creative idea that seems intriguing, but then the compulsion to see it through is something that I think it's a skill set. You learn how to put that into a perspective that's healthy. And so, yeah, I will continue to write music. I mean, that's what I do. I write music. But perhaps what the ability to sort of contain it and not have to constantly put it out will be the next record that I do being something that's entirely different, something new for me, right?
Now, you mentioned about, obviously, the skill set you have attained by releasing the amount of music and making the amount of music that you have and saying it's somewhat healthy. I mean, are there moments where you think this isn't healthy just because of the immense amount of work that goes into what you're doing, or at least once you create a vision, you're sort of halfway through what's happening and, things do go wrong. We know it's not a perfect world. What is a healthy time for you when you get things done, and what's an unhealthy time where how do you balance that whole thing?
Well, I think in my case, by doing it, because as a result of doing it and putting myself into positions that are compromised or unhealthy, I've learned, okay, well, you don't do that again. And, I heard a quote recently when people are talking about sanity versus insanity and what a definition of insanity would be. And I heard one that I thought was great, and that was a good definition of insanity is doing something that continuously produces a result that you are dissatisfied with, and then continuing to do that same thing under the assumption that that end result is going to change eventually. It's beating your head against the wall. As a result of this massive amount of output that I've had over the past 7 years, which in my defense was something that was less of an idle, like, oh, I think I'll just put out something else, but more of well, this is a need for me to clarify the past. These records are really important for me to actualize for whatever reason. As a result of doing that, I now know what those limits are. And I think you got to know your limits, and sometimes you're never going to recognize them until you've gone too far. The end result is we're through it, and I'm still sober, and I'm still mentally in a position where I can be responsible for the people I need to be responsible for. And I think that as a result of any of the mistakes that I've made, I feel I've learned from them.
Have you reflected on the music you've made throughout this period, especially the last 7 years, where there's just been immense personal growth in your life that obviously I've seen as a personal friend, but also having that channeled through music? Have you actually looked back a bit and just gone, wow, how far you really have come?
I don't know if I've looked back in the sense of sort of a congratulatory sort of way, like, wow, check it out. But I think that my attribute, my main attribute as an artist, if you want to look at it that way, is I have a vision, and that vision is very specific. And the vision that I had for where I would be 7 years from where I was 7 years ago is where I'm at. And so, in that sense, I feel that it's a success, but also one that wasn't. It wasn't something I didn't anticipate. I was like, no, I know where I'm going. I know what I'm heading for, and I know what my objectives are. And really, it's within my personal capacity to actualize that, as long as you just keep working. And I think that that's it, and as I said a couple minutes ago, there's been a lot of what I've done over the past 7 years that hasn't been completely successful, and there's been some failure, and there's been a lot of personal failure, but the thing that defines it, and I think ultimately what the Z2 record is about, is you got to get back up. That's all there is to it. And I think that when you think about suicide, when you think about, Robin Williams or any of these folks, and the perspectives that people have on suicide, I think unless you're in their shoes, you have no real right to comment. That's my personal perception of it. And I mean, I don't know if that is, but that's what I feel. I mean, I don't know. The guy's going through things that I can't understand. I'm not him. However, in the moments where I've felt like giving up, and again, just to be really clear, I've never been in a position that some of these people who have unfortunately chose to end their own life have been in, but I have felt close to that edge. And in those moments, the thing that keeps me coming back is just like, well, you have to keep getting back up. You have to keep getting back up. And when you do, through music or what have you, hopefully, those of us who are in a position to be able to say something musically or whatever can provide some sort of an outlet for people who've got it worse than us, and I hope that the Z2 project and what I've done over the past few years in my own way will hopefully inspire somebody, whether or not it's anything to do with suicide, maybe even musically, maybe even personally. It's like, we can do it. We can make these things happen that maybe people don't think you can do, right? And that's the goal. Am I successful at that? I mean, I don't know. I think in some way. some people listen to what I do and think it's just a pile of shit, and sometimes, admittedly, I listen to what I do and what I say, and I think, I'm full of shit and it's a pile of shit too. However, there's other times where I'm just like, no, we did it. We managed to pull it off. And it wasn't just me. It was me and a ton of people, label, band, the audience, lots of stuff. And, I'm inspired by what has happened with my career over the past 7 years, because it isn't just me. Even though I'm the figurehead for it, it's a ton of people, man. And I'm hoping that the Z2 thing, if it means anything, it just means like, look, you can keep going. You can keep going. Even when you think you can't, you can,
Some people can create that isolation and think that that's the reality, when really, in effect, as you mentioned, that you're sort of the figurehead behind everything, but you do have a great support sort of group or network behind you as well, which makes a huge difference. That's it.
And this is why I'll be very clear again. What I'm beaking off about here is not other people's circumstance. There's people that are totally alone, that have nobody to go to. And I'm so fortunate to have a strong family and a strong group of friends and a good band and, friends that I can go off of and around. So when people talk about Devin Townsend Project or Ziltoid or all this stuff, as much as, I stand out in front or do all this sort of stuff, it's like, there's no way I could do this stuff on my own. I've got a huge amount of support from people that are every bit as talented or more so than me, right? So it's inspiring, and I'm hoping that the next step of my creative world musically will involve other people on levels that I haven't maybe been afraid to or maybe I've been afraid to collaborate with people. Maybe there's a fear of being seen as not the guy, or maybe my cover will be blown and everybody's going to know I'm actually just, a piece of shit or whatever, right? I think that maybe by purging through all this stuff and, a great deal of these sort of psychodrama things will hopefully allow me to be in a position where I'm like, well, look, let's get together with these people that you've wanted to jam with for years and let's make something that's more than you.
I think that's already happened. And your cover is blown. You're a nerd. I think that is why you have the fan base that you have, because of the absolute honesty that you portray. You've always been that way as a person, and worn your heart on your sleeve, especially coming through I guess the ego, so to speak, of the years of Strapping Young Lad, and wearing the badge of being the tough guy, until you realise that, hey, hang on a minute, this is just a mask. And the fact that,
well, it's funny though, and just to be clear as well, I love strapping, man. Like when people are talking about strapping, it took me years to realize how much that meant to me. But you're absolutely right. Like the ego and coming through it and all these lessons and whatever. But I again, right now, dude, I'm at the tail end of like 12 interviews and low blood sugar, so I feel like I'm rambling like a lunatic here. But I guess the point of what I'm trying to get to is ultimately that I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm surrounded by some great people, and this Z2 project damn near broke all of us, but it didn't. And I think that provides a unique perspective that hey, I'll be talking about it at the Guitar Clinic, so come on down.
Absolutely. Well, of course, the Z2 project will be out on the 27th of October, but let's check out those tour dates for your up-and-coming Shred Fest. The first one is at the Printers Theatre in Brisbane on the 20th of October, then in Sydney on the 21st at the Paddington Town Hall, in Melbourne on the 22nd at the St Kilda Town Hall, Adelaide the 23rd at the Governor Hindmarsh Hotel, and finishing in Perth on the 25th of October at the Hale School as well. So, as always, there's never enough time to talk to Townsend. We can get you to choose one of your favourite songs from, I guess, maybe even something that you will be giving a few of the folks a few tips on how to, shred something from the Townsend catalogue.
My shred. That's right. Yeah, it's my trip, man. I'm Shreddy Devi. God, so what do you want to hear? Like some guitar stuff, or?
Yeah, it's up to you, man.
It's up to you. Oh God, I don't know. Or I can play Ants. That's a guitar-y one from Infinity, like 15 years ago.
Yeah, we can whack that on there. No worries.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for your time, Dev. It's always great chatting, and again, we look forward to having you back.
Yeah,
in
you're the
Australia
last one on the
shortly.
tail end of a lot of them, man. So cut me a bit of slack on this one. So anybody listening, yeah, I know I sound like I'm full of myself more than usual, but I'm just I need to put a granola bar down the old fucking talk hole right now.
All right, let's check out some Devin Townsend here on AndrewHogue.com, and we'll see him in Australia very shortly.